There is an untapped market with a $17.5 trillion industry, which has been completely disrupted by AI, and nobody is talking about it. Now, I've been in this industry for the last 6 months and see it absolutely exploding. And I'll show you exactly what we've done to position ourselves in this space and exactly the kind of build we would have for one of our clients. So getting straight into it, this was one of our clients who struggled with commercial solar lead generation. And we built out this full system, this full software for them, which allowed them to do this. And this wasn't just focusing on lead generation. This wasn't just focusing on outreach. This was focusing on the end-to-end system. Now, we had 3 key stages which allowed us to get to the end goal. And this was all turned into an AI software. And if you haven't seen in the last video, I was talking about the AI service agency model, which is what I've been focusing on to allow me to have reoccurring revenue, but also performance-based metrics. So therefore, the more we generate for them, we get returns for ourselves. So in terms of this approach, we have 3 stages: database, enrichment, and then actual outreach. So to start, we customize the software completely towards the company. So in this tab, we spoke about exactly what the company does, what regions they operate in, solar panels, the incentives they have, and all of this stuff. And this was essential to then customizing the rest of the software. And basically, this was just for us to fine-tune the rest of the software for them. Now, I'll walk you through exactly how we built this behind the scenes and what technology it was leveraging to get this desired output. And we didn't reinvent the complete wheel. We just basically put all the different softwares into one place to allow us to manage everything in total. But then also with this approach, we're able to use AI to actually directly correlate to revenue growth. And as I mentioned before, the service industry is a $17.5 trillion industry. And inside of that is lead generation. We're completely tackling the lead generation problem with building out a full AI software for each of our clients. And what I mean by that is a software which specifically handles it end-to-end without needing to scale, without having to have multiple employees, because the software handles it all, therefore taking away the biggest bottleneck of an agency, which is the high margin cost if they want to scale. So for example, what we would do, we would prepare Apollo list, or we would connect this to the Apollo API and all different services like Zoom, Info, etc. And we would gather basically whatever their specifications would be based on the filtering criteria. We would be able to then filter out the decision makers of manufacturing facilities with 30,000 square foot in Detroit, Michigan. And this was all being pulled from Apollo. Then, this was all the surface level information. Next step, we were able to find what the biggest bottleneck for them was understanding what the commercial solar output and cost with solar, cost without solar. So we connect this to a bunch of different APIs, geo-tracking APIs, Google Solar incentives. We would connect it to Google Maps, would connect it to local energy rate areas. All of these APIs are all publicly available. Some you have to pay for. And I found all of these APIs using Perplexity and just brainstorming back and forth. So we were able to find stuff like the size of the facility, energy, the rates of the local area, capacity, coverage, cost with solar, cost without solar, savings, ROI, etc. And now, for example, cost with solar and cost without solar, there will be no metric out there, or there's no API which actually specifically says this. So what we then had to do in the front end in actually building this software is build out an algorithm, or build out like a formula calculation, which then put all the different parts together and then came out with the output of cost with and cost without solar. And now, building this as a very small team, we were able to do all of this with AI building the software. So this entire software was built with AI. And if you want to know exactly how I built it out, I first cloned like a template software like this. I'll walk you through exactly how to do this in a later video of exactly how to clone it, but then also how to refine it for your use case, then connect it to a backend to do all of this kind of functionality. And let's just say, for example, in this software, we're able to see behind the scenes what's happening for this one. So I've connected it to a database which logs everything. And specifically using the Google Solar API, we're able to plot this facility. And we're able to plot solar on the roof of that facility. And then also as time goes on, we're able to also see the average yearly sun output of what it looks like on that roof. So all of this is a visual interface, and this is all in one place. So this would have required multiple different tools across the internet, like looking on Google Maps, looking at Apollo, looking at Zoom Info, looking at instantly, as we'll get into for sending the cold emails. But all of this is put into one productized solution. And then therefore, we don't have to manage any of this stuff. The software does it all for ourselves. And the most important part was we didn't build out every single back-end part because they were already built out. So we just assembled the piece. We didn't actually need to paint the picture. And this talks about some key pain points. So we're able to find energy consumption of local areas, for example, stuff like reliability metrics, continue to solar. So now this is also talking about the solar panel output. So here we're able to find installation details, solar panel potential, environmental impact, etc. And this does a very similar thing, but also plots the potential. Here we're able to see monthly energy production based on loads of different algorithms, estimations behind the scenes, and then we're able to find return on investment and then installation timelines. So this was based on all the information they input in the very beginning. We were able to use everything they gave us about their standard operating procedures, about installation timelines, to then conduct what it would look like for an X square foot facility, let's say. And then all this information gathered moves on to the very last stage of how do we actually outreach to these people. And we found cold email was the most efficient for this kind of industry, just because the people who are the facility managers would generally be on email. So they're the older crowd, they're the people who wouldn't be on Facebook or Instagram, for example. They would be the people who would respond well to an email. And if we wrote an email with so much information in detail, such as information about the building, what kind of savings we could get them, all of this value straight up, then it would be an absolute no-brainer to then at least find out more. And an email we would send following guidelines would be like, "Hi James, saw your facility secured a £51 million funding in Series B to accelerate the rollout of the vacuum, etc., etc." And then it goes on to saying, based on our current calculations, we found your energy usage is around this much per year. And because they're the facility manager, they would probably know these numbers. So if they're accurate, which we've found they are highly accurate, we're able to then have immediate rapport built without having to ask all of these discovery questions in the beginning. And then using exactly what Instantly or Smartly would do, we have follow-up sequences. And we're not building out the full email sending infrastructure. We're just linking it up to the API of Smartly or Instantly, for example. And then therefore send emails every 3-4 days. So this is an example of the AI system infrastructure, which I am heavily betting upon for our client. And then because all of this stuff is being managed and tracked by AI, we're able to track all of the outreach. We're able to see what the reply rates are like. And then also because AI is ingrained into all of this stuff, we use AI to auto reply to the emails. So we have a much higher reply rate because we respond in 60 seconds or less. And then we also have a much higher reply rate because we know what's working, what emails are resonating, what's not. And then we can use AI to upwardly spiral that and iterate as we get better. So that is a full infrastructure system. Now, I'm not saying we've built every single part of this out ourselves. We heavily leverage all the APIs and tools already built out there, but combined it into our own unique software, which allowed us to show to the client that this is absolutely innovative. So they could clearly get an understanding. First of all, they could operate it themselves, they could see the results, but then also they could understand how this would directly correlate to revenue growth, therefore would want to have an investment, but then also allow us to have long-term incentives like revenue share, equity, for example. So this is just the quick overview of the system, leveraging the AI service agency model to basically conduct this for our clients and then have large returns.